I think we need a cup of tea. Good morning, gorgeous. I hope you like milk and sugar. But if you don't, no worries, because I'm just going to drink that after I'm done this. So, I have a confession to make. Last week, when I did the video on the maternity shirt that I was taking in, I made a comment about how unfortunate it is that a lot of moms, the last serious outlay of cash that we spend on our wardrobes for like 18 to 20 years while we're taking care of our kids' wardrobes is for maternity wear, which we only really need for like 6 months. And then I realized that while I was filming that, I was wearing maternity underwear that I bought when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, who's 6.5. So, I thought maybe we should make some underwear. And I've got this fabric. So this is, okay, I have a lot of it, as you can see. This, and you would have seen it before, if you watched the boho shirt refashion, I'll link that below, if you haven't seen it. And I have so much of this fabric, you guys, because I made homemade pajamas. My sister-in-law and I did homemade pajamas for our whole family for Christmas. It was super cute. And I had bought 14 meters of the plaid fabric. And then as we were making stuff, we were like, oh, well, my mom's gonna be there on Christmas Day, so maybe she would like pajamas, but she prefers nighties. And then it was like, well, we should also see if my mother-in-law wants one. At that point, I had not bought enough fabric to add like 2 nighties. I mean, I always buy extra, but I did not buy that much extra. And so I asked my mom if she wanted a nightie, and she said yes. And then I asked my mother-in-law, but I was already on my way to the fabric store and I didn't hear back in time, so I'm just like, okay, I'll assume that she wants one. And I need to find a coordinating fabric so that I can like make these nighties. So I find this stuff. Amazing. The blue is exactly the same blue that our shirts were, that was like in the line, in the plaid, in the pants. Great, fantastic. I can do like plaid top and then this blue kind of billowing down from that. Awesome. So I buy like 5 meters of it and I get home and we hold it up and I'm showing my mom and we realize like, wow, it's really see-through. Especially if you're gonna be wearing a nightie, which you don't generally have like a bra or a tank top underneath a nightie. Now, I don't know about your holiday traditions, but matriarchal near nudity is not part of ours. So what am I gonna do? But then my mother-in-law got back to me and she was like, no, I don't really want a nightie because I'm gonna like show up in my clothes and I don't wanna have to get changed. So I was able to go back to making the plaid nightie for my mom, but I'm left with a ton of this like stretchy jersey fabric. I didn't mind using it for my boho top because I'm always gonna wear it with a bra or a tank top underneath, so I didn't really care. But I am determined to use every inch of this stuff. So some of it's we'll use on underwear, and then I don't know, maybe down the road we'll do some layering tanks or something like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a pair of comfortable underwear that I know I really like to wear, and I'm gonna take a pattern off of them. They will not be my old maternity underwear, but they will be ones that I like to wear. Now, normally I would just lay out the garment and then you could see me tracing around it to get my pattern, but these are underwear that I've been wearing for a while. I mean, they're not horrific or anything, but they're my underwear that I wear, and I thought, let's not make this weird, okay? So I'm going to do that part off camera, and then once I have my outline, I will bring it back under the camera and you can see me add seam allowance and all that jazz. Yeah, that's the plan. Enjoy your tea. So I've traced out my garment, but the pen was really light, so I'm just going back over it with a black felt marker. I have traced exactly the curved line, but everywhere else where there was a straight edge, I just put a dot, and then I can use a straight edge ruler to get a really nice true line. I've folded my paper in half so that I can get a really symmetrical garment when I cut it out. It's just really easy, especially if you're doing an old garment and you're trying to clone it, for things to shift under the paper, and you just get a much more symmetrical look if you only do half of the garment and then fold your paper in half. You could also just do a pattern for half and then always cut it on the fold, but since I'm making multiple pairs, it's nice to have more than one pattern so that, it's nice to have a full pattern so that I can layer my fabric and cut more pairs out at a time. So I've got my other piece of my pattern here doing the same thing where I'm folding it in half, and I'm also making sure as I go when that I match up the parts of my pattern that are going to be sewn together. It's really easy when you're cloning a piece to have something stretched one way or have it shift while you're cutting it. And so you just want to make sure that, you know, the sides where the front and back are going to be sewn together, that those sides are actually the exact same length. So make sure you're checking that stuff as you go. I'm going to do the same thing with the gusset attachment. I think that's such a funny word. I don't know. It's mildly better than crotch, so we'll just go with gusset. I am matching my gusset attachments onto my gusset piece and just, again, making any adjustments that I need to make sure that I know that everything is going to sew together really nicely. And then I'm also going to make sure that anywhere where the garment has to be sewn together, that I'm adding the appropriate seam allowance, which I just put at 1/4 inch here. Now, if you're using, well, it's underwear, you will be using stretchy fabric. Make sure you know which way your stretch goes. This fabric is a 2-way stretch, so I'm making sure to lay my pattern out so that the stretch goes around my waist. And when I'm laying my pattern out, I'm not too fussy on pinning all the straight edges because I'm going to use my rotary cutter to cut those out. You get a nicer edge and then you don't have to pin so much. However, the curved edges I am going to have to cut with scissors, and because it is a stretch fabric, it's really easy for things to kind of go sideways on you. So I do recommend pinning, being, I don't know, quite generous with your pins on the curved edges, because when you're sliding your scissors underneath the fabric, it'll stretch the fabric and then things will kind of get funny on you. So use lots of pins on the curved edges. I hope y'all like the paper that I made my pattern out of. It is leftover wedding wrapping paper. Actually, I didn't even realize it was wedding wrapping paper. I just was like, oh, there's pink on it and a girl in a pretty dress, and I used it for my daughter's birthday. I put one pin in the middle of the pattern piece so that as I remove the corner pins to use my rotary cutter, I don't have to worry about things shifting around on me too much. I cut the curved edges first, and then I'm gonna go ahead with my rotary cutter and do the rest. You can see I just removed the pins so that my straight edge can lay flat, and then we're all gonna hold our breath while Stephanie uses her rotary cutter with her left hand. And I didn't lose a thumb, hooray. There we go, easy peasy. Now I've got my pieces all in their respective piles. So I'm going to use 2 pieces. I cut 2 pieces of the gusset for each pair of underwear. So I'm layering a piece of gusset, the front panel for my underwear, and then another piece of gusset. We're doing this, I mean, that's how underwear are, right? You have a little bit extra in the gusset area, but this also allows us to completely hide all of the seams in the gusset area. So I'm just going to stitch those together, and I'm using an overlocking stretch stitch that I'm also using elastic thread, and I'm using a needle that is appropriate for both that thread and stretch fabric. All right, so we have the gusset sewn on the first side. And I'm just going to take the bottom piece of gusset and I'm gonna slide it up underneath my front panel of fabric, and then I'm gonna roll the front panel just to keep it out of the way. I'm gonna roll that up. So right now, the gusset seam that's holding everything together is face down on the table. Then I'm gonna take my back panel and I'm going to line that up as well with the gusset and roll that panel up as well just to get it out of the way. Now, when you have your two panels rolled up, you should be seeing one that has the right side of the fabric out and one has the wrong side of the fabric out. Or just use fabric like this where it doesn't really matter. If you do have a pattern or something like that though, you'll want to see the pattern on one of those rolls and not see the pattern on the other roll. That way when you unfold everything, everything will be facing in the right direction. There we go, we're gonna stitch that as well. There we go. All the gusset seams are totally hidden. Now I'm going to use two different methods of binding these. One is to use fold over elastic. I happen to have a bunch of this in my stash, so I thought I'd use it for half of the pairs that I was making. If you've never sewn with it before, it's pretty easy. So I just fold it over the edge, and I'm using a straight stretch stitch gosh, I always have trouble with that, straight stretch stitch in order to fasten the fold over elastic onto my garment. And right now I am running that fold over elastic down the sides of the garment, which will eventually become the leg holes. And here we are, I'm sewing past the gusset right now, and you can see that both sides of the gusset are like the seam allowance is completely contained within the garment, so you don't ever have to look at the seam allowance. You're not going to have it like rubbing against your skin and being uncomfortable. It's completely contained within there. Now I am going to sew the sides of the garment together. And then I'm going to put the fold over elastic on the top of the garment. I'm starting this just a little bit more than halfway, the halfway point on the back panel of the underwear. And then that way there'll be a little bit of extra past the midpoint for the fold over elastic to overlap at the back. And it's the exact same principle, you're just folding it over and stitching along. The next way that we're gonna bind these is with lace. I have some 1-inch lace and some 1.5-inch lace. First thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna take this 1/4-inch elastic, and I'm going to apply that with a zigzag stitch to one side of the 1.5 inches. So this is gonna be on the waistband, and I've had underwear that does have this on the waistband, this extra elastic, and some that doesn't have this on the waistband. And what I find is the waistband ends up just like rolling over all the time and not looking cute. And who's got time for that? So we add the extra elastic and it just seems to solve that problem. I'm just as I did with the others, the fold over elastic, I am running the 1-inch lace, down the sides of my underwear garment. And then I am sewing up the sides, just the same way that I did with my fold over elastic. And then I am going to fix the waistband on the same way. I have 6 pairs of underwear completed. I have 3 with the fold over elastic, and I have 3 with the lace trim. They are so comfortable and they fit so well, which is the joy of cloning underwear that you already know fit you perfectly and are super comfortable. You know you're gonna wind up with underwear that are super comfy and fit you perfectly. Awesome. I am not going to do a full reveal and model them for you. Remember what I said at the beginning? Let's not make this weird, okay? No, we're not gonna do that. But here's what I will tell you. I am wearing the lace ones right now, and I'm wearing them, I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing them with yoga pants, and there's virtually no panty line because of that lace trim, sort of like making that nice transition between underwear and no underwear. It actually wasn't that difficult of a project. I slowed down, I took my time, I used the right thread, which was stretchable thread, and I will link to that in the description. I used the right needles, which were for stretch fabric. I will link to those as well. And I just had fun with it, and I wound up with 6 new pair of underwear that are amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna go Marie Kondo my underwear drawer and get rid of all of my maternity underwear. I'm sure my husband actually will be like really excited about that. And I will see you guys next week. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all the things, hit the dingy bell, and yeah, we'll see you next week.